Kelly is a professional sheep shearer, and she's going to show us how that is done.
It's done with gentleness. You're not trying to hurt the sheep. You want it to be a good experience for the sheep so that they'll keep coming back and be very passive while you get what you need, which is the wool. That analogy is just so perfect. To take a combative, aggressive stance toward the sheep, I'm like, how is that ever good for anybody? When I was grinding 20-40 limit and 30-60 and 40-80 every day for years, it was actually possible to put an accurate number on a player's value as to how much they contributed to the wealth of the game. It's a lot harder to do that at no limit and really get an accurate assessment, especially fairly quickly, but at limit you could do that. There was a guy named David that played in the game all the time. Alex and I estimated his loss rate at 3 big bets an hour, 120 an hour at 20-40, which is significant. That's a big loss rate. This guy was so valuable to the game, and he was a nice guy. I became friends to the extent that you can be friends with people who you only see in a poker room. I became friends with dozens, maybe hundreds of the biggest fish I ever played with. I'd oftentimes find myself in a short-handed game in the middle of the night with 4 or 5 terrible players, and we're all having a great time. They really liked playing with me, even though they knew the only reason I was there primarily was to take their money home and buy cat food with it. And that's why this analogy of shearing sheep has always been one of my favorites. It's just such an accurate representation of what goes on. The sheep go and gather more wool or money, as the case may be, and they come back in and...
We're shearing them, you lay them on their back because God put this thing in sheep. When you lay them on their back, they just relax. So when you get them in the right position, they're just saying, oh, you can shear me now.
It's done with gentleness. You're not trying to hurt the sheep. You want it to be a good experience for the sheep so that they'll keep coming back and be very passive while you get what you need, which is... I'd say the one personality trait that got developed early that's been really key for me is not judging other players for playing bad. And never criticizing them in all those subtle little ways we can, besides just telling them how bad they play, rolling eyes, shows of disgust, shows of contempt. Somehow I got rid of all that after, well, I did say early on, but not really. I was like that for like 15 years, let's say, from ages 15 to 30, playing in home games. I was a trash talker and I did all that stuff all the time. But then when I really got serious about my game and became a professional around age 30, it just all changed. It just seemed wrong to criticize the people that I was there to make money from, but it was more than that. It was the old, whoever is without sin cast the first stone. And it wasn't like I just became a professional and stopped tilting. I did plenty of the same crazy tilty things that they did. I just didn't do it as often, and maybe I understood more about what I was doing and why it was so bad. But for some reason it became really hard for me to cast that first proverbial stone because I was still a sinner.
Then it's back to the field. They'll feel more comfortable without all that wool.